Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The 100. A great episode, a lot of things to kind of break down, so let's get to it. Obviously, let's start off at the beginning. I kind of had an idea of what Clark was talking about last episode. She'll take care of Octavia, I felt like you're kind of hinting with the idea of you're killing her, but it's no, you're just me removing her from the throne, which is no, she outright meant killing her. I was like, wow, you're really suggesting it, and Bellamy's in the room too, but Bellamy's like, no, we're not going to do that, no matter how terrible Octavia is, which is something I don't know necessarily if Clark's really thought through, because if you knock her off the throne, Octavia, I feel like you're just going to give Gaia the opening she needs to put Maddie in position to be. It's we went against having a commander. The one time we did, everything kind of went, but it's it's over and done. Because for her, it's she's only loyal to Octavia until her reign is over. She's going to work, obviously she said it herself, I'm not going to force Maddie to take it, but obviously she's going to wink and nudge. Like I said, maybe on some level, Maddie kind of wants it. Just the fact is that we still don't know why she did the opposite of what both Gaia and Clark were telling her to do. Maybe just the Nightblood in her, once she saw the flame, it ignited something in her, that Nightblood in her was no, I gotta have it, I gotta prove myself, I am the commander, I will, or maybe it's just, maybe it's just a side effect of being a Nightblood, maybe it's just being raised by Clark, but she doesn't like showing weakness, and she's kind of stubborn in a sense, and very prideful. Maybe that's just something that's just naturally part of her personality. Maybe it's part of being a Nightblood, maybe it's just a combination of being all that combined with being raised by Clark. I don't know. Hard to say, but I feel like that's what that seems like that situation could potentially open up. Could be the direction they take, but obviously we'll have to wait and see until everything kind of unravels. But nevertheless, a lot went down with that. Obviously, the big conversation on this side is well, what do we do? Because it's Charmaine's agreed with everything. As long as we can bring peace, as long as we remove Octavia from the throne, because she will never accept surrender. They go to Indra about it, and Indra's in the fight she could most likely win, yes, especially if she uses the worms. But it's if we use the worms, we don't know what kind of effect that will have on the valley. We might think we can get rid of it, but because the fact of the matter is, it's a species that they're not that familiar with. Yeah, you've done a little studying here and there, but this is something you've just found out about. Let's be fair. You've literally been on Earth for years now. It's been years. Clark was running around the place for years by herself with Maddie, and she didn't even know about these either. So it's kind of you should be extra careful of something you didn't know about existing your entire time you were here. Obviously, I guess Prime Fire gave birth to these things, because I guess it did something. Maybe whatever was there, the radiation and whatever, ended up kind of soaking up into these things, and it mutated, whatever they were before mutated in this, whatever the case may be. It's an unknown species. You don't really, no matter how much testing you do, I doubt you figured everything out that this thing is, because the fact is, it could easily mutate into something else. You think you can wipe it out easily like this, but this thing seems very easy to spread just like a virus. But nevertheless, the whole plan is to not only take care of that, they're going to kill Kara too, which kind of sucks, because they're going to make it seem like an accident and kill all the worms. If we do that, we don't have to worry about killing Octavia. We can just wipe out the worms, and Octavia won't have the means she needs to fight. While the entire time you have Monty being let's use the algae, not as food, but they could use it to help the plants grow, and it can, make it so that they can have, a system again, that they can grow food, and just, things could come about from this algae. It might not be good, but they might not have to use the algae directly, but the fact of the matter is good can come from it. And he was trying to have this conversation with Kara, and it's who knows in the long run if Monty would have been able to do something. He was never given the chance, but Kara was kind of willing to listen, and I feel like Kara's the most kind of along with Octavia, but I don't know. Personally, I kind of feel even if Monty had found another means, I think Octavia had her eyes set on the valley. I don't think there was no changing it, even if he did potentially bring the new options. That's cool and fine and dandy. We'll take this along with us taking the valley. I feel like that most likely be the way it went down, but I guess we'll never know in the long run. I guess we still could, because that's still a viable option in the end, but we'll see. So Clark and Bellamy, and it turns out that whole conversation of Monty being I guess I gotta help, what's one more life? It's come on, dude, the fact of the matter is this is 1 for 100. It's if that's the case, why don't we just kill Octavia? And it's like, oh, we aren't? Yeah, I figured as much. You know, it's kind of sad because it's that situation of it's because it's Octavia, you're not willing to, like, you're trying to talk about making these sacrifices one for hundreds, but you're not willing to make that sacrifice when it comes to someone that's important to you, like your sister. So they end up killing Kara. And, you know, even Clark has to kind of reiterate it, being like, no, this is the only way. This is how we get peace. But even Bellamy's like, yeah, you keep saying it enough, I might believe you. But that's the thing, like, because the fact is Clark has to keep saying it. It's because she's trying to convince herself. Because for her, this isn't just about stopping a war. This is about protecting Maddie. Because this means, like, because Maddie's going to be on the front lines with Octavia. It's not even just about, like, her being close to Octavia. It's because she's close to Octavia in this regard, too, that she'll be on the battlefield. And it, you know... And, you know, it's kind of sad because Kara died pretty brutally, too. Like, those things burying out of her like that, which is kind of crazy when you consider, like, having seen her story unfold the way it is. It's like, oh, she survived those 6 years just to kind of end up dying like that. It's kind of sad. I mean, because I didn't expect her story to play out like that. I thought she would have been in some position to kind of betray Octavia later on. I wasn't expecting her to kind of die in this way. Like I said, super brutal way. Those things just, like bursting out of her stomach like that. It's kind of, that sucks. And she was in so much pain. She's like, please just end it. But they couldn't because they still got to make it look like an accident so they can't end her misery soon. So ultimately, it turned out it was all for nothing, sadly. I mean, it brought up some interesting conversations because even Bellamy was kind of like, yeah, the fact of the matter is I couldn't kill Octavia, you know, and it's kind of like, if it was someone else, he would have done it, like, been ahead of Clark on doing it. But Clark's like, nah, maybe you in the past, but who you are now, it's like, no. Like, kind of saying basically that Bellamy is grown, and the fact is he doesn't want to do this. Like, because Clark's the one that kind of convinced him into doing this, but Bellamy kind of wants to find other ways of handling the situation. He doesn't want to kind of keep repeating the cycle either, much like Monty. But at the same time, Bellamy, like, understands why Clark did what she did, because it's like, no, like... you're just a mama bear trying to protect your little cub, essentially. And I thought that's kind of a apt comparison. But I was like, okay, something's going to give way. Like, how she's going to figure this out? It's because it turns out she was never going to use the worms. She was going to use the eggs. I guess, in what shape or form, I don't know. I thought the whole point was to send one person in there with the worms in them and then, like, unleash it like that. But I guess the whole point is to maybe, like, sneak it in with some food or something. Like, I guess maybe, like, they'll send in something, like, because the whole point is, like, they're using the eggs, so I guess they'll drive a vehicle or whatever nearby with the eggs, or plant them nearby so that when they hatch, they go crazy nuts. Like, that's kind of the whole point, like, using them to wipe everyone out. It's interesting enough, because we ended up finding out one of their targets is that little place with the cross on top. I guess it's kind of like it is a church, exactly, isn't it? Turns out that's actually where all the prisoners are being kept, such as Raven, Echo, and Shaw, so it's kind of like, oh, that's a little sucky. But it was all for naught because she knew, like, yeah, Kara would have had no reason to be here because it would have had to deal with the egg, so all this happening is all for nothing. So she immediately knows Clark and Bellamy are behind this. So Clark is being ready to execute. And I love that the conversation comes up about, like, so what about, you know, Maddie? It's like, she'll go on the battlefield us. When we win, we'll deal with it then. Because it's like, yeah, the moment Maddie finds out that you killed Clark or whatever, she will most likely kill you, you know, so... But for her, it's just kind of like, yeah, she recognizes Maddie as a necessary means for right now. So for her, it's like, no, we'll use her for now. Then, you know, when she finds out the truth later on, we'll deal with it then. But that kind of seems like even Octavia's probably hoping that Maddie will listen to reason, but she probably knows that's not the case. So it's most likely going to be like we either lock Maddie up or kill her. So that's kind of sucky. It's kind of sad because this is a situation we find ourselves in, because it's like, these people, Clark was once a friend and a good ally to you, and now you're willing to do this just because it's like Octavia is where she is, and she, as Kane kind of used it in this term, kind of very dictator-like in the sense of like, oh, you're against, because once again, it's like, if you're not with one, if you are against one, if you are not one crew, you are enemy of one crew. So there's that old situation. But I didn't know exactly how Bellamy was going to handle that situation. He walks in and he tells her, like, you know, I want you to know no matter what, I love you. He's telling her to spare Clark's life. Cause she's like, oh yeah, cause you love her, don't you? Which is kind of like what I've kind of hinted at, which is going to be complicated considering the whole Echo situation. But I mean, I don't know. It might be like, oh, I love you and just, I care about you deeply type of thing. Or it might be like more of an intimate thing, which I've kind of always thought for such a long time. I feel like the one time I really, really felt, I felt like probably in season 2 is when I felt it the most, in my personal opinion. But nevertheless, I mean, I feel like it's subsequently built up over the course of everything. But nevertheless, I was like, because I was scared at any moment. I was like, please don't tell me you're going to have to kill Octavia. I was like, because that would suck if you had to kill Octavia. And it's like, I was like legitimately halfway expecting him to pull out a knife or a sword or something and stab her like that. I was like, would he do that to his sister? It's like, no. And then lo and behold, what did he use? The moment she started getting poisoned and stuff like that, I was like, the algae. Because that's what Monty warned. Because the algae, like, put, like, Murphy in a coma for, like, a month when he originally ate it. So that's why they were not having humans directly consume it. And it's just like, for him, it's like, this is how we get the peace. And it's just kind of like, for him, he felt like this is the only way. This way, he's not killing his sister. He's kind of removing her from the... I mean, but the way things kind of seem like it might be like she is potentially dying. I mean, it could, like... I mean, it put Murphy in a coma for like a month. So, yeah, it tiptoes you towards death. So there's no just like he knew that probably giving that to her there's a chance that she would die and not just kind of come back from it. Maybe, you know? But he was willing to make that sacrifice because in his mind, it's like, how can I be willing to do this for anyone else except for my own sister? Like, if this is big enough, like, where a lot of people would die, like, peace is right there on the horizon. I've got to take it if necessary, just to make sure I save as many lives. People have had to make sacrifices. How can I not make one, too, in this sense? So it's like, wasn't expecting that at all. Like, and that's like I said, just like I had a feeling when he went to the room, I was like, oh, that's gonna get crazy. So I was, like I said, wasn't expecting the algae thing to kind of pull him. I should have figured as much when they keep bringing it up, especially when Cara was about to taste herself, but Monty stopped her. I was like, that's gonna come back up in some shape or form, and I didn't know what regard, and I just completely slipped my mind until it popped up with those two. So that's one angle to be handled. Let's not also forget, like, there's the whole Indra situation too, because obviously she cares about Octavia, but Octavia isn't willing to listen to her, especially last episode. They got another disagreement, and like now Nathan's leading the groups that normally Indra will lead, but just because of that situation. So I wonder, does she suspect that Indra was behind it too? She definitely went to definitely went to Bellamy and Clark, but I don't know if she suspected Indra or not, because she probably feels like Indra's one of the few people she can trust, so she believes Indra would do something like that. So I'm curious to see what happens there. I mean, and that kind of feeds into what I was bringing up earlier about the whole, like, Maddie situation. And what will Maddie say when she finds out the truth about what Clark did? It's like, oh yeah, you're doing this to people who are evil, sure, but you're doing this to your friend. Like, how could you do this type of thing? Like, that might be something she's kind of feeling about. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't her. It was actually Bellamy who did it, but it's like, maybe she won't look at it the same way because, like, Clark tried to sabotage everything. So she might, I'm curious to see what, you know, Maddie's mindset about this whole situation ends up being. Like I said, and whether or not anything comes about it with the whole Gaia situation and the Flame to Commander situation. So we'll see on that front. On the other side of things, we had obviously the Murphy and Amaury situation with McCreary. They tried to leverage him to Dioza, Charmaine, for in exchange for Raven. She was kind of like, nah, I'm good. It's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, you can keep him if you want to. Because for her, it's like she gets rid of two birds with one stone. Because for one, it's like she gets rid of him because she already knows he's gunning for her position. Like, he's just waiting for the opportunity to take her out. So one less person she has to look over her shoulder for. Plus, she gets his men in turn because it's like, well, he's kind of out of the picture. Oh, well, I guess you guys gotta, like, wholeheartedly serve me because I'm kind of the only choice right now. So there's that. So, which kind of leads to Murphy making a deal with McCreary to be like, hey, he'll help them get Raven back by making them fake quote-unquote prisoners, and they'll kind of get the Raven like that. So, I mean, for him, it's kind of like he wants to stick a middle finger to Charmaine, so he wants to be in position where he can take her out. But, I mean, obviously, I'm skipping around, but the moment he comes back, it's like, oh, man, that's going to get heated. Like, both of them looking at each other because they know the other wants them out of the picture. It's like, she still knows McCreary wanted out of the picture before, but he wants her even more out of the picture now that he knows it. Like, oh, you try to get rid of me. And for him, you know, it's just like there's no safe zone between those two. Like, they know they've been gunning for each other, and they both taken that opportunity and have missed. And now it's going to come to a head. So I'm thinking the Valley is going to be even more divided because it's something even she herself said. Charmaine said the only, like, we have them outmatched with technology and stuff, and it's like, and weaponry. Like, the only thing that can defeat us is us. Well, it seems like you might have inadvertently started a civil war situation because that's going to come back around on you like that. But the thing I like the most about it is the Amaury and Murphy situation. because for her, it's like, oh yeah, you want to do this? Oh, that's fine and dandy. But for her, it's like, when this is all said and done, there's not going to be a her and Murphy anymore. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, I thought we were going to be a team. But for her, it's like, she sees the conviction in Murphy's eye, doing what he's doing right now. This is the Murphy she fell in love with, the man that's putting together plans, making strategies, the man who was willing to do whatever it takes to survive. Like, that's what they bonded over, because they were both survivalists. But the problem is, when Murphy's out of these situations, like as he was kind of for like those 6 years, he kind of loses his purpose. And for her, it's just kind of like she doesn't want to be kind of stuck in a static position with him, just kind of sitting back, feeling purposeless. You know, that's why things kind of got bad between them, because he didn't know what other purpose to serve, because it's like he's always shined through in situations where it's all about survival. And Amaury kind of found other means other than just surviving to kind of get by. She found other skills, and Murphy feels like he's falling behind in the wayside, pride and just feeling like he's left behind and stuff like that. You know, she feels like that's going to happen again, and Murphy's kind of like, it won't, but she kind of feels like it will. So looks like things take a step forward back in the right direction for them, and now it seems like it's taking a step back. And whether anything will come about that, like whether they will fix that, I don't know. I'm curious to see what will Murphy do. Will he try and find something else to kind of like compensate for that, you know? Will he kind of learn from his mistake and kind of grow from it? I mean, obviously you see aspects of him kind of yes and knowing with that situation, but we'll ultimately have to wait and see him. Probably the one thing I was kind of like, that kind of broke my heart a little bit, was the whole Abby and Raven situation. Abby needed Raven's help, and Abby's like, oh yeah, like I need you to help me help these people. And she's like, no, Raven's like, if they're sick, let them die. But Abby lies and is like, yeah, Charmaine threatened me. I was like, I thought it was going to be Charmaine coming clean and be like, wait, she said I'm threatening you? She's full of, like, I thought she's full of crap. Like, I thought that was going to be it. It's like, no, like, Raven pieced it together because she saw the pills and stuff like that. And it's like, wow. It's like, because I thought because I knew it was like, yeah, I know this is all about the pills. I was like, why are you lying about that? Like, what? I was like, what is the benefit of you helping them? It's like, oh, maybe at some point in time, Charmaine cut off your supply. It's like, no, Charmaine never actually cut off her supply. That's what she's afraid of happening. If she cures them, Charmaine won't really need to keep you well, you know, adjusted, because she only needs to keep you filled up with your pills so that you can cure and take care of them and be their doctor. But once that's done, it's just like, hey, get out of the way. I mean, to be fair, even when it's all said and done, she might still need it. I mean, considering the whole Charmaine situation being pregnant, so there's that aspect. So she needs you to kind of be a steady hand, collected dog. But for Raven, it's like, wow, I thought I was doing this for a friend. It's like, nope, it's all about this. And she tries to destroy the device she was working to help with their illnesses. And Abby shocked her. I was like, oh my God. And she's like crying and saying, I'm sorry, Raven. It's like, you betrayed one of the people you were closest to. Because a conversation that Raven ends up having with Shaw, where it's kind of like, has there ever been someone that you love that is doing something to both you and themselves, and you take it because you love them? In her case, she references her mom, who used to drink a lot. And I think she sees that because, like, when she initially said that, I was like, oh, is she referencing Abby? It's like, no, she was referencing her mom, which still could apply to Abby, because for her, it's like, when she seeing that addiction, she probably saw it in her mom too. Her mom drowned herself in drinking. Abby's doing the same thing with drugs. And the fact of the matter is, she's talking like a junkie. She's like, oh, you know that pain you felt after leaving the city of light. She's like, don't give me that crap. So there's that. Plus, it's just the fact is that I think, you know, and the thing I was kind of thinking was initially is because I'm sure Raven kind of sees Abby as like a mom, as a mentor and a mom. So I think that's why that situation hurts her even more. It just makes her feel so complicated, because it's like, even with what Abby just did to her, it doesn't change the fact is that Abby's still someone very important to her, and she loves her and cares about her, sadly, you know. So, and now you see that Abby is kind of living with her decisions, because now, like, obviously, like, Charmaine is like, oh, you found a way to cure everybody? Oh, that's awesome. Don't tell McCreary now that he's back. Yeah, let him just die out, because that way you still kind of get rid of him. Even Vincent's there, and he's like, oh, that's cold-blooded, but I guess he's just kind of okay with it. Turns out we found out a little bit more about Vincent. He's a serial killer. I love that Shaw being like, yeah, he collects hands and feet as souvenirs, but other than that, he's a great guy. It's like, that's crazy. But then you see Abby kind of looking at her pills, so she kind of got what she wanted in the end, but it meant betraying someone else. And she said the whole thing of, like, the whole reason why she went to help them initially, it's like, oh, I'm a doctor, I can't just let people die. I mean, obviously that was her excuse, but it's like, maybe on some, like, it's so sad that Abby's, like, so heavily lost herself like this. Because Abby's always kind of been a bit of a moral compass in the situation herself anyway, so maybe Abby would have felt the same way even under different circumstances. She wouldn't have been all about killing people. But like I said, a lot happened in those 6 years that kind of changed her. Just not sure about what happened to Clark, being one of those people that survived. I mean, I guess in the long run, because Abby told Marcus not to make her one of the people that survived, but he couldn't let her go because he loved her, and obviously that makes her kind of like pissed towards him about the whole situation. Like I said, we don't know everything that went down those 6 years. I still stuff that hasn't 100% been pieced together. We got a pretty good idea, but not the entire picture. So it turns out what ended up doing it was sound waves too. I don't know but that was kind of interesting. It doesn't completely get rid of their situation, but it makes their situation much better. It's kind of what Abby was kind of alluding to. So all of them are cured, so that's less one issue for them. Like I said, they still got the Civil War thing going on. So then there's the whole thing about Echo, who's wanting to kill Shaw, because it's like, yeah, Shaw dies, like that means we can stop a war because they won't have a pilot. So, but we also see that, things like, Octavia was going to march forward, but now that's no longer an option. Then there's the talk between Kane and Charmaine, because even she's having her doubts about the situation, because Kane pointed out to her that she's very much kind of going down that same route, kind of doing what she's doing, like is making her no different from Octavia. The fact of the matter is, at one point in time, you think like, oh, the few for the many, but then the many become the few, and it goes that basically in the long run the ends don't justify the means, doing all the killing and sacrificing you making. Like, he is aiming for peace. Like, it's because Kane only switched sides because he didn't like the way Octavia was going about things, and it's like, can you argue? It's like all across the board there's wrong on every side. Like, no one's innocent in this situation, because even Monty and Harper talk about it, because for him, he's like, I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to kill people anymore. For him, it's like he wants things to kind of go a different way. And then he's like, Harper is like, things will go back to normal. The fact of the matter is, all Monty can do is like, people die. Like, that's not going to change. People will die. That's just how it is. And it's not just about our friends potentially dying. Like, people will die nevertheless. But the fact of the matter is, all we can do is teach them how to live. Like, live in these moments and just keep it. I don't know. I think, like, plus the whole Jasper situation is probably still rattling off in his head too. So that complicates things even more. It's just a complicated mess all across the board. I find it interesting that Charmaine is willing to name her daughter Hope. It's just funny because obviously this is CW. Then there's also the originals that's also happening on the CW. It's just funny because, Klaus's daughter's name is Hope. But essentially they are like, I don't know, man. It seems like she isn't as dictatorish as people, like, it does seem like she is willing to try and go about things the peaceful way. Like, for her, it's like, she doesn't seek all this fighting. She wants peace too. Like, maybe you can make the argument that's why she's been the quote-unquote terrorist she has been in the past, because, it's like, these beliefs that people have had in the past of, like, how they, like, the politics and stuff like that, she didn't like it a lot, because it's like, I don't know. It's just hard to say where 100% where Charmaine stands, because it seems like she says this, and maybe her being a mom, because she even talks about the fact that meeting Kane was actually a good thing, because he actually gave her hope, because she'd kind of given up on, like, raising a child in this whole situation. So that would actually be the firstborn child out of this entire situation, wouldn't it? There's never been, like, there's never been a child born in this whole, like, over the course of this entire series, has there? Not that I can think of, not unless I'm remembering something wrong. I mean, there's been young kids, sure, but there's never been, like, someone pregnant giving birth, I don't think so. She might be the first, which is kind of like, hey, fits the name, beacon of hope, kind of like the first person born on Earth, potentially? Like, with the new circumstances of everybody from space and stuff like that. I don't know, it's just something kind of interesting with this. Like I said, that's just kind of my crazy thought process about it, so. Like I said, overall, great episode. A lot of interesting directions. I'm very interested to see where the next episode takes us with this crazy situation. And, like, I doubt it's going to be that easy to kind of resolve everything, but we'll ultimately kind of have to wait and see. I do note that there is no episode next week, but there will be an episode the week after next on the 10th of July, so do keep that in mind. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.